welcome to a different sort of video for my channel. As a huge music lover, I mean, who isn't, I especially enjoy how catchy the Final Fantasy battle themes are despite their short length. FF lends itself particularly well to this kind of ranking since most of its battle themes revolve around similar ideas and even melodies. For example, as any Final Fantasy fan knows, the 2D games all share the same intro, even if different instruments are used. Well, synth instruments anyway. Speaking of which, I'm not necessarily ranking the original versions of each theme. Instead, I'm going with the versions I like most, which means no pixel remaster tracks. I just don't care for how overblown those arrangements sound. Too much electric guitar and messiness that distracts from the melodies. Also, this ain't just a ranking, I'll be nerding out about what I love most about FF's battle themes and what makes them so memorable to me. Think of this video as a love letter to Nobuo Uematsu and his successor's work, cause I'm a fan of every track I'll be talking about. Furthermore, I've got no nostalgia for any of these songs, having played all the games for the first time in the year 2020 or after. And finally, I'm only covering the mainline, numbered Final Fantasy entries that have one obvious battle theme used throughout. To my knowledge, that excludes the MMOs, FF12, and sort of Lightning Returns since it has a few battle tracks, but I'll cover its main one. I am counting the rest of the sequel games as well, since I consider those mainline entries. Feel free to disagree in the comments. With that out of the way, if you enjoy this kind of thing, hit that like button and consider subscribing to the channel. It really helps these videos reach more RPG fans, and I'd appreciate it. Alright, on to the rankings, starting with the worst. Don't get the wrong idea, I might have ranked 10-2's theme the lowest, but it's still a cool track, just not a great fit for a Final Fantasy battle theme. I like more melody instead of the jazz fusion-esque guitar squeals and noodling on this one. On top of that, it doesn't really go anywhere. Not much else to say about this one. I'll be covering tracks in more detail as we get to the ones I like more. Along the same lines, let's talk Lightning Returns. This is an odd game as it doesn't have just one battle theme, as I mentioned. There's Crimson Blitz, a remix of Blinded by Light from the original Final Fantasy XIII that plays when you're in the city of Luxarion, and other areas also get their own themes. However, I'm going with a track that plays during the nighttime in every area, eponymously titled Lightning Returns. Seems like an appropriate choice, however, this song is kind of a mess. It's very chaotic, which fits the theme of the game, so I can at least understand why the devs chose it. I like it more once the proper melody kicks in with that slap bass, which thankfully isn't overused like it so often is in other music. Other than that though, the track doesn't do much for me. Moving on. 13-2's battle theme is neat, but wow, that intro hook sounds straight out of a Sonic soundtrack from the early 2000s. Though after that it actually turns into a pretty sick prog rock sounding track with Rush-style riffs at points. Check this out. It's another nice one that again doesn't feel very Final Fantasy, which is important to me. It's almost like the composer took a random rock composition of his and threw it into the game, though it does implement the trademark FF13 violins at times to at least attempt to fit in with the first game, but more on that one later. Next up, Final Fantasy XVI. Wow, the most recent games got a surprisingly classic sounding battle theme, and not just classic, but also classical inspired. Its intro's beat reminds me of FF8's theme, which is neat, though again there's too much going on in this one for me to rank it any higher. You might be noticing a pattern here. Most of the orchestrated songs are filling out the bottom of my list, cause I'm more of a fan of the catchy, hummable melodies of the older games. These fuller sounding tracks certainly fit the more realistic looking games they're in, so I don't blame the composers for going in that direction. I would have made the same choice. It's a matter of preference. When I think great FF battle themes, I'm thinking of the older games. There is a lot of cool stuff here though, several change-ups to keep things interesting, moving string sections, a piano, even a brass section toward the end. It's got a little bit of everything. Are those castanets? Hell yeah. Overall though, the melody just ain't very interesting. This is another track that doesn't really go anywhere, and all the instruments crammed into it make it lack cohesion. Ah well. Oh, I should also note this is the only game on the list I haven't actually played yet, and typically it helps for a theme to get burned into my brain before rating it. So keep that in mind. Maybe this one will rank higher once I actually do play FF16. Alright, next up. Speaking of FF8, this is one of the few older battle themes that doesn't truly impress me. It's not bad, but squanders its potential hard. Its intro is among the series' best, feeling rushed and thrilling with an almost paranoid vibe. And yeah, go ahead and do the water meme, I'll wait.
Water and water and water, water, 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 water and water and water.
The problem with this track is, after that intense build-up, the song gets super boring, meandering into repetitiveness without a solid through line. It's just kinda meh. After that, it gets even worse as a bunch of long notes play over the rhythm, almost putting me to sleep. Later, it adds flares like church bells, but these sound corny and out of place, and I'm a guy who loves church bell hits in my music. I don't know, I've never enjoyed this track all that much. Nobuo Uematsu pulled off a similar concept much better with the next game's battle theme, which I'll get to. Along the same lines, I want to like Final Fantasy IV's battle theme more than I do. Its main horn melody is a little slow for my liking and gives the track a sleepy feel despite its thumping bass rhythm typical of the 2D games. Not bad at all, but nothing special. The heavy use of synths in the background also does it no favors, making it feel like less of a battle theme and more like the game's dreamy overworld theme. It never meanders, which I appreciate, and repeats the intro bass line when it loops, an uncharacteristic touch that makes this song stand out from the other 2D battle themes. So that's neat, but I don't have anything else to say about it. Next up may be the shortest battle track of the series, yet catchy is the name of the game with Final Fantasy V's theme, and it wastes not a single second, consistently packing a punch. That said, its length holds this song back from true greatness since it's missing the cool transitions others from the 2D era feature. On the other hand, it's got one of the funkier bass lines of the series and a sick synth pattern that contributes heavily to the melody without being distracting or boring. Good stuff, but I like it a little less looking back now than I did when playing through the game. Next, let's talk Final Fantasy XV, one of the more underrated games that happens to have a fantastic soundtrack, and not only because of its inclusion of jukebox tunes from past games. This time, Square brought one of my favorite composers aboard, series newcomer Yoko Shimomura, who doesn't disappoint. After the most thrilling intro of any battle track in the series, it transitions into a take on the famous Prelude song, a sweet touch that instantly makes the track sound like Final Fantasy without going overboard. Nostalgia being one of the themes of FF15's OST, this fits perfectly. But it doesn't stay there long, launching immediately into an original composition heavily reminiscent of past battle themes with a little of 13's je ne sais quoi thrown in. It's an excellent tune, but perhaps not as memorable as the simpler, more catchy tracks I'll get to later. That's gonna be a pattern in this video. I tend to prefer the simpler stuff the most. It's honestly pretty similar to FF16's, but this one moves me a lot more. It's got more punch, more excitement, and sounds like an actual battle track. It helps that it's not trying to use too many instruments. This one feels very Final Fantasy, and the more I listen to it, the more I like it. Great song, as expected from Shimomura. Man, I love that lady's work. Alright, on to the classic that started it all. The first Final Fantasy's battle track holds up amazingly well. I like the PSP version the most as it embellishes what this track does best without deviating too much from the original intent. It starts, of course, with a classic bass line all the 2D games use before launching into one of the most well-known melodies of the series. The coolest part of this track, though, is when the organ jumps in to overlay the hook when it repeats, but only for a few seconds. I freaking love this, so creative and unexpected, even though it's technically not part of the original track on the NES version. It also features multiple transitions and mini build-ups, packing 3 to 4 different melodies into one short track, complemented by a flawless loop, all while keeping the energy up. It's the perfect back into a fantasy fight, and set the stage for all future battle tracks, and not just for Final Fantasy, all JRPGs. Awesome stuff. Final Fantasy IX's a tricky one, a track I like more some days and less on other days. It was the hardest to rank because it's got so much going on. Practically a prog rock track, it starts off with a daunting intro similar to FF8's before launching into a hodgepodge of sounds reminiscent of other previous games. It's one of the longer themes from the 90s titles, with constant change-ups and various instruments dropping in and out, such as a groovy little organ that noodles over the melodies, and if you know me, you know I love organs. All in all, a satisfying track that does what FF8 tried to, only better, though it still lacks a solid, memorable melody, preventing it from landing any higher on my list. On to the next. Final Fantasy VI's battle theme took a while to grow on me, but I've come to love it. The simulated drums sound kick-ass, it's exciting all the way through with a rippling bass line and wild-sounding synth. And I love how it seems like it's repeating before throwing you for a loop by entering a syncopated breakdown and only then building up to the loop. That said, it's otherwise a standard Final Fantasy sounding track about which I don't have much else to say. Just a catchy good time. Final Fantasy XIII's up next, and oh boy, I adore this one. In an extremely memorable theme, FF13 adds violins, which I think is a first for the series since past battle themes mostly stuck to virtual instruments, with a few exceptions like the guitar on 10-2s. Although sometimes I have trouble telling what's virtual and what's not, so let me know if I'm missing anything. Anyway, 13's soundtrack is all orchestrated, and you can certainly tell. The horns, for example, sound so full because they're real horns. And while I'm a huge fan of synth horns, they're practically a different instrument with a whole different feel. These real ones are far more epic sounding and really contribute a lot to the track. The song also features a rare instance of an electric guitar used right in Final Fantasy music, at least if you ask me. For the most part, it's subtle, filling out the sound, but there's also the occasional crunchy, pounding rhythm that fits perfectly, and most importantly, isn't too loud. The mixing is impeccable on this track. The guitar never overwhelms the other instruments. Altogether, a standout battle theme, and the only orchestrated one that fits right in with the classics from the 2D era. Now we're getting into the truly top-tier stuff with Final Fantasy III. Everything from here on out is catchy as hell and offers enough variety to listen to over and over again. I love FF3's battle track, particularly the DS version. Notice the quiet counter melody in the background starting right after the intro. So cool, and the main melody is among the most memorable and epic sounding of the series. You feel like you're heading into a tough battle with this one. I love how it pauses at points to let the counter melody do its thing before bringing everything together with an almost Spanish-sounding synth horn. I'll admit the Pixel Remaster version does this horn section even better, but the guitars on that track just kill the appeal for me. What a shame. Let's listen to that transition into the loop one more time. It comes at an almost unexpected point, yet fits in flawlessly. Oh man, I love this one, but the next three are even better. Now, Final Fantasy II is something special. For one, the version I like most is the only 2D era battle theme that doesn't start with a standard intro, swapping in imposing sounding horns to play a slightly different hook that leaves out one note, though the original NES track indeed used the traditional bass line. However, the horns on the PSP version completely changed the feel, giving this track the energy of a battle march. And unlike most themes, this little oompa riff doesn't stop after the intro, it continues to drive the song. This one's core melody is also the catchiest of all, I think, with that early flute break coming in at just the right time. Then the piece shifts gears completely, letting that flute take over on top of a goofy-sounding muted horn before an epic build-up to the loop. Ah, it's so good. Fun fact, I've recorded almost all of my videos while listening to this very song in headphones on repeat. I stutter, and having music in the background helps me speak better for whatever reason, though I rate the song highly on its own merits. This track never gets old. At number 2 is Final Fantasy VII. Wait, you're saying one of the best Final Fantasy games also has one of the best battle themes, you ask? Hell yeah, it does. The master of build-up, FF7's is killer all the way through. On first listen, it seems like Uematsu has dropped the classic bassline intro used by all the 2D games, but not exactly. The horn blasts that open the track continue through almost the entire song and are essentially a syncopated version of the same melody, similar to what FF2's theme did, yet taken to a new level. It's clever stuff that gives the track a very Final Fantasy feel despite all the added bells and whistles, or should I say clanging metal sounds? I still don't know what exactly that noise is supposed to be, but it feels industrial and to me reflects the start of the game's story in the dingy city of Midgar. My favorite aspect of this track though is how many catchy hooks Uematsu crams in, one after the other, often overlapping instruments and ideas, all leading to an insane pinnacle where the flute goes crazy. Man, flute sounds so sick, and they're versatile as hell. One of my favorite instruments for sure, alongside harps and organs. At number 1 comes Final Fantasy X. It may not be one of my favorite games in the series, but its battle theme is the absolute cream of the crop, the perfect accompaniment to a fight, and the one that gets me the most hyped even when listening to it on its own. It's inspiring, hopeful sounding, and appropriately epic. For one, it starts off thrilling, not bothering with any build-up, just kabam, hitting you with those synth horns over a killer bass line as you head into battle. Only then does it take time to build up anticipation, making great use of dynamics, with the bass not too low in the mix and the synth slowly getting louder. After that lengthy intro, which is never repeated by the way, keeping it feeling fresh every time you hear it, the main melody kicks in with those staccato horns. This part has incredible punchiness. Take a listen. It doesn't stop there though. Just when this section begins to verge on becoming too repetitive, the drop arrives with the bass and synth slamming into full gear simultaneously, while introducing a whole new melody courtesy of a watery sounding synth, which happens to fit one of the themes of the game, if not the entire PS2 era: water. Following that is a bass-led breakdown filled with a drummer going crazy on the cymbals, and it's fantastic. Something about the PS2's sound always gets me. And finally, we get a hopeful sounding build back up before the track repeats. So good. As a side note, FF10's remaster destroyed the entire appeal of this track if you ask me. Seriously, I would never play that version for that reason alone. All the punchiness is gone since a droning electric guitar drowns it out. Especially with video game music, less is often more, and this track is no exception. Take a quick listen. Ugh, I'm sticking with the original. That version is Uematsu's masterpiece, the best thing he ever wrote, and emblematic of an entire generation of gaming. It screams PS2 in the best way. Alright, that's my ranking. I hope you had fun with this video, and I hope you take the time to appreciate excellent video game music whenever you can. I've been Leon from RPG Haven, and thanks for watching. Leave a like for that algorithm, subscribe for more videos. I mostly do retrospectives on RPGs, but occasionally I'll branch out to do something like this. Let me know in the comments which FF battle theme is your favorite, and have a blessed day.